Welcome to this e-learning module on blood pressure waveform analysis. Today the focus will be on blood pressure waveforms and how detailed analysis of these waveforms can help us in understanding safety of medicines. So let's start where it all begins, with the blood pressure waveform. How is a waveform like this generated? We know that the heart is a beating organ. It's basically a pump, and every beat the heart pumps blood through the vessels, creating a pressure, the blood pressure, in these vessels. And this pressure is exactly what we measure to monitor the health of the heart and the vessels. For example, if you go to the doctor, they will put a cuff around your arm, and this is how they monitor your pressure. Typically, a pressure of 120 millimeters mercury over 80 millimeters mercury is considered healthy. We will come back to this later, to this value and what it exactly means. The interesting thing about blood pressure, though, is that it is not just one value or two values, it's actually a value that is changing over time. Every time your heart beats, the pressure in the vessels will increase, and in between two heartbeats, the pressure will decrease again. And this is where the waveform comes in. As you can see, every heartbeat creates a wave of pressure in the vessels. In the first part, that is the part where the heart contracts and ejects blood into the vessels, this is called the systole. The maximum value that the pressure reaches is called the systolic pressure, typically around 120 millimeters mercury. On the other hand, the part of the cycle where the heart is refilling with blood and the pressure in the vessels drops, this part is called the diastole, and the minimum value is the end diastolic pressure. So when new medicines are being developed, the systolic and diastolic pressure are used to assess cardiovascular safety of drugs. As we said, 120 over 80 is generally considered okay. If a drug decreases the pressure, however, patients can experience a hypotension, and this can, for example, result in patients feeling dizzy or fainting. On the other hand, if a drug increases the pressure, patients might become hypertensive, which again is unwanted, as this can cause stress on the blood vessels, can cause damage to the heart, and so on. So far, so good. It is clear that diastolic and systolic pressure are important values when assessing drug safety. These values can give us some information about what is going on in the cardiovascular system and if a drug is safe to administer to patients or not. But, there is a big but, the blood pressure waveform is so much more than just those two values, that minimum and maximum value. There is so many data points in between that we are not using. If we are doing some calculations in the right lower corner here, blood pressure signals are often recorded at 500 Hz, which means that you record 500 data points per second. And for example, in 1 second, a rat has approximately 6 beats. From each beat, we are using two values, the systolic and the diastolic pressure. 2 multiplied by 6 is 12. So in total, we are looking at 12 data points out of the 500 that we recorded, not using the other 488. So a lot of information about the waveforms is being lost. Information about the shape of the blood pressure waveform, but also about the variability of your waveform is lost. And this is where in-depth waveform analysis could enhance our understanding of drug safety. Still, these days, some cardiovascular side effects are being missed when a drug is developed, or it's only detected late in its development, or there might be a lack of understanding the mechanisms that are causing these side effects. So there is still a lot of room for improvement in the models that are used nowadays in cardiovascular safety testing. This is why in the last decades there has been an increased interest in looking more in depth at waveform signals and extracting more information from the data. One example, if we look back at our waveform, is the position of the dichrotic notch. Another comprehensive method to do waveform analysis is using symmetric projection attractory reconstruction. This is a method that uses every single data point that is recorded, so it's not discarding any of them, which is a huge advantage. So this was a very small overview of what a blood pressure waveform is and how it can be analyzed. As you can see, there is a lot of information available in a blood pressure signal, and many values and new methods are now being developed to go beyond the mean pressure or the systolic and diastolic pressure. This field of waveform analysis in drug safety is emerging now in the last decades, and scientists are trying to understand better how each component of the wave relates to a certain disease or damage to the heart and the vessels. This is a very quick overview of waveform analysis. This is what my PhD is about. If you are curious about this or if you would like to know more, feel free to contact me. My email address is displayed in the right top corner. Thank you.